Hey, this is Traps with Oscar Mike Radio. How are you doing? Today is day 7 of 7 of Oscar Mike. And I have a really great way to end this 7 of 7 with what is arguably the best for last. We'll see. I'll get into why I did this earlier, but before I do that, I want to thank my sponsors and supporters. Joyce Asack of Asack Real Estate on the South Shore of Massachusetts. If you are a veteran or a civilian, doesn't matter who you are, what you are, if you have real estate needs, please look her up and tell her that you heard about it on Oscar Mike Radio. She's great. Second guy is, second supporter, second sponsor is Mark Holmes of Reaper Detailing and Power Washing. Don't get it clean, don't get it neat, get Reaperfied. And I'm supported by Mike Damon of Vet Unite. If you see the new logos in green, the one right above my head there, that was done by Mike Damon. We're doing some very cool stuff in 2020 and want to give a big shout out to him. Not on board yet, but will be, is Sean Schubert of Red Seal Martial Arts. When that's official, you'll see his logo, but we are what we call in principle. So why 7 for 7? Why is that important? I'm always trying to grow. I'm always trying to challenge myself. I'm always trying to see if I can do something better. And I felt like I had gotten the audio part down pretty good. I'm not an engineer by any stretch. I have no formal training, but I'd like to think, and I believe that 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, I'm gonna make something sound good if it's a conversation between two people. And then a couple months ago, Megan Bruce came to Boston and said, if you really want to grow Oscar Mike Radio, you've got to go video. And I'm like, look at this face, Megan. I mean, yeah, people look at this face. This is a face for radio, I think. But I tried doing it and found out that people, really did respond. So it's amazing what you do when you listen to advice. And then I wanted to see if I could do more. And the reason is some people are telling me that if you did, 2 to 3 shows a week, you would do better. And I'm like, well, that's 2-3 times the work in a short amount of time. That's not possible. Or is it? And so I started looking at a way to do this during Veterans Day week, and so I've done 7 podcasts and or videos, and I'm going to have links to those in this blog post for Oscar Mike Radio, and you can check those out. But this is the last one. This is a really special story to me, how it came together, who's involved, and what is going on for the future. If you've been watching this, you've seen these images come across your screen. And now here's the last one. So in this one, you see the guy on the right. His name is Joshua Morin. The guy on the left is David Roberts. Joshua Morin was one of the Jarheads Motorcycle Club members that was severely injured in the New Hampshire crash. And per their request, I won't get into specifics around that and the legalities around it, but suffice to say that 7 fellow Marines died during that crash. Well, not 7 actually, I think it was 5, but 2 spouses and 5 Marines died. And, people like Josh were the survivors. And I wanted to talk to Josh for quite some time, and wanted to talk to other people for a while. And I'm still fairly new. I'm still fairly unknown in a lot of parts, and people don't know what I'm about. And people have bad experiences with other media outlets or podcasts or video bloggers, and it puts a bad taste in their mouth. So instead of getting discouraged, I just put myself out there and talk to individuals and talk to people, and then got hooked up with this guy on Joshua's left here, actually his right, named David Roberts. And what David Roberts did is David Roberts started doing these walks to raise money for the survivors, and specifically Joshua Morin. And why is that important? It's important because even though there's insurance and other things, there are a lot of medical expenses and other kinds of household expenses that just aren't covered by insurance, AFLAC, or anything else. And a lot of the money that was raised goes to the survivors, family, not the ones who passed, families. A lot of the funds raised did not go to the survivors, so it puts a gentleman like Josh here in a very difficult spot. And so David and I started talking back and forth for the last couple of months, and off and on, and he got a comfort level with what I did. I got some more insight into the story, and literally 3 weeks ago, almost, I get this note saying, "Hey, I'm getting this award at the Volunteers of America Gala Dinner on Tremont Street in Boston. I want you to come." And so I, like, oh my God, my suit's in the cleaners. What am I going to do? I get out my camera. I get out my, shirt and tie, put it on, bring the stuff over, and I get to meet these guys for the first time. And it's just one of those things that just kind of happened. But when it happened, I want to say that it was the right time for it to happen. David was getting an award for the work he had done around this situation. Josh was recovered enough to actually drove. He drove from Western Mass to Boston to see his friend get this award. Volunteers of America, who we'll talk about here in a second, did a lot to make sure that this was a wonderful experience for David, Josh, and David's family. And David, Josh, and I are all Marines. Josh and I ride, and we all are on the same wavelength. And what do I mean by that? It was interesting. I meet Josh, I meet Dave. We're sitting there talking, cracking jokes, busting each other's humps about stuff. Meeting the family and people coming up, and one of the first things is they all sing the Star Spangled Banner, which is wonderful, right? And the cool thing was, we didn't know each other. We've never met each other before at all. And without this being planned, without this being, coordinated, us three just broke into the Star Spangled Banner. We started singing it together. And I must say, Dave and Josh, we kind of killed it. I think we crushed it. I think we did a really good job doing that. And it was a special moment that happened at the right time. And it was just amazing to be a part of that moment. And it was also humbling to understand what Josh had gone through and what David's gone through in his life. And David didn't have a big, huge committee and a massive fundraising budget and, this huge network. David simply had a desire to make sure that no Marine, no one was left behind. David's very active in the Marine Corps League in New Hampshire. And he sat there and told me I had to think of some way that I could help this Marine out. He's like, I just had back surgery. I'm going to start walking. And just through the simple act of taking a step, even though he was in a lot of discomfort at the time he started doing this, David started walking to raise money to provide to Josh and Josh's family, and to raise awareness about the ones who, even though they're alive, still face significant challenges. And that just blew me away. I'll sit there and gripe about, some of my aches and pains in life, but I'm like, I got nothing to complain about. And I'll think at times that I have, my stuff I'm dealing with, and my, worst day is better than a lot of people's days. And I just feel very grateful to be able to, be here doing this when you think about it. And that's the other thing. I'm sitting there talking to Josh, and we talked at length, and there was none of this self-pity or, oh, poor me. He's like, man, every day is a gift, brother. Every day is a gift. Life is a gift. And, if we never talk again, I want you to understand that life is a gift. And that just really, when you meet somebody with that kind of attitude, it does something to you. It does something to you. It gets down in your soul, especially when you start talking to members of David's family who watched them do this for Josh and what he's had to gone through. Very nice meeting David's son and daughter and their extended family. David's close personal friends. I was really honored to be at his table. And we're going through the night, and we just started talking about what we're going to do. And I'm like, look, guys, I'd like to have you on Oscar Mike Radio for this podcast and, make it work. And, it didn't really work. It was difficult to pull off because of the holidays, and I understand that. But I did want to take this one, the 7 of 7, and end it with this. And understand that the end is not the end, but it's beginning. We are planning on meeting up in 2020 and really delving into not only what happened, during the wreck and after the wreck, but what's going on for the future. Because I really think if you understand how Josh approaches life, you can't help but be blown away by, what his attitude is. It's that can-do, embrace the suck experience that rubs off on you and forces you almost to reach inside yourself and do better. And so many times dealing with people in nonprofits, people, raising money, it's just always about the money, 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 money. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I get it. Advocacy is not free. T-shirts are not free. Gala dinner tickets are not free. Things are not free. It costs money. I totally get it and understand it. And if you're running a nonprofit or you're doing advocacy, you should have a very good grasp of how money goes in and out to your organization. But sometimes I think we get too wrapped up in the money and the auction items and, this and that we forget why we're there. And so the challenge is to balance that. And I think some organizations do that really well. I really do. And again, I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just saying that sometimes I hear, hey, we've got, all these auction items we're going to have here. Come down and look at those. And I don't hear anything about the people they're serving. And then I have some orgs that really, really balance that well. Here's a story about why we're here. Here's who we're serving. These auction items are a way to further engage and raise money for our organization. I get it. But I think there needs to be focus on this story. I think there needs to be focus on what Josh is doing and how he's living. And what do I say that? I mean, you could sit there and argue that, well, there is insurance, there is other resources available. Why is this story important? There's all kinds of advocacy for the Jarheads. And I think we'll get into that in 2020 when we sit down, all three of us, and start talking about that. But if you listen to Josh and understand what he's going through, he's not having the same kind of outreach experience as other people have. And this is why this night put on by the Volunteers of America was so important. It raised awareness to a lot of people about the power that one individual can bring to a situation if that person is willing to embrace that and own it. And David certainly owns it. I mean, David certainly, the recognition he got that night was well-deserved. Semper Fi, brother. And it was just very humbling to be asked, and I was very honored to be there. And these images you see on your screen are images I took, but I mean, these are real. These got raw. I'm looking at them later, kind of touching them up, and I'm like, this is not some put on. I mean, the emotion there was real, and you can't buy that kind of emotion. You can't buy that kind of bond. And I was humbled to be there. And for me, sometimes I worry about certain aspects of my personal life, certain aspects of my career, certain aspects of parenthood, certain things with Oscar Mike Radio and Oversized Productions. But I left there with the thought in my head that somehow, some way, with the resources and contacts I have, we're going to get Josh's story right. Give him a chance to tell it in his way. Have David there. Get the Jarheads Motorcycle Club blessing, and we're going to see about really raising some awareness around what happened. The worst thing possible would be that this is forgotten, that this is just a blip on the radar and people forget about this. I don't think it will be, but there's always that risk that it could be. And for me, it never will be. I mean, this night sitting there at certain points just absolutely floored me. For a couple of reasons. One, the people in the audience watching this weren't just there filling a seat. They were genuinely interested in what Josh and David had gone through to get there. Volunteers of America, made sure that David, his family, Josh, and myself were comfortable and accommodating and understanding of the challenges of the night. And reading about their work was very rewarding. I'm looking forward to talking with them. And then again, when I say this again, it was just the right time. It was the right time for three people to come together, understand what each one brought to the table, and unite as brothers. Which again leads me back to my last point is, in 2020, you're going to see a lot of focus on this. And I don't know how I'm going to tell the story just yet. I have some ideas, but kind of like David, whatever I have, in David's case, it's his ability to walk, engage, connect with people, and raise money for Josh. I'm going to use what I have to make sure this Marine is not left behind. And you see the picture, it'll come up here in a second, of the three fists together. We wanted to kind of get that picture. It wasn't tongue-in-cheek. It was to show the bond of brothers, right? It was to show that we are united in a common cause, not only as human beings, but also as Marines. And all that stuff you hear, there you go, all that stuff you hear about Marines and esprit de corps is not just marketing speak, people. It's for real. It's for real. So this whole week of the last 3 weeks of collecting the stories and putting them in different formats and doing all this during Thanksgiving week, which some people would say is a mistake. I'm like, well, I'm thankful to be doing this. It seemed like a good time to be doing this. I just want to thank everybody who took time out of their day, week, during their events to talk with me, from Mr. Wegner of Authentically American, Connor Sullivan, Chuck Reinhagen of Fall River God. Let me say that again because I'm not editing this one. Fall River Rod and Gun Club. There we go. And Connor Sullivan, he was raising money for the Travis Mills Foundation at the Article 15 Brewery. My Marine Corps League, the First Lieutenant Brian McPhillips Marine Corps League Detachment, the best ever. Jim Tuff from The Edge to Thriving. Jim, you're a breath of fresh air, brother. And Ashley Buggy, who again, kind of like Josh, suffered a horrific life event in her life, and instead of laying down and quitting, found a way to not just live but thrive and conquer life. It's amazing to now this story here. So at one point in 2020, Josh, Dave, and I will all get in the same location, hopefully, meet up and talk about this. You can go, I'll have links to David Roberts' Facebook page and Josh Morin's Facebook page, and you can check them out. And if you want to help out financially, you can. If you want to spread the story, you can. The need's going to be there for a long time, and maybe this will get you into a situation where you can advocate for people in your area. I don't know. So 7 for 7, 179, Brothers Forever. Again, talking with Josh and Dave over the last couple of weeks, we're just excited about what's going on for the future. And the last thing I'll leave everybody with is, as Josh said, life is a gift. Every moment's a gift, and you can spend time feeling sorry for yourself and not living life, or you can work to enjoy what life has to offer. And I really feel that if we all take those words to heart, especially through this holiday season where it's all about things, maybe our attitudes will change. So I'm Travis. This is Oscar Mike Radio number 179, Brothers Forever. Thanks again to my sponsors and supporters. We are locked through launch. I will see you for 180 next week.